Welcome back. In today's video, I will be showing you how to do a fill with polygel as well as this red and gold Renaissance inspired nail art. So stay tuned to see how I did this step by step. I also have more in-depth polygel and nail art tutorials on my page that you can check out as well. So here's what we're starting with. This was a polygel set I had done about 3 weeks ago at the time. So they're holding up pretty well. There's not much lifting. If you want to see the tutorial on this, it's up on my page. But I'm going to show you how I basically remove the design and fill in the areas that have grown out and reshape everything. And then we're going to do some new nail art. So let's start by getting our shaping tools ready. We're just going to start with removing the design. So I'm going to wear safety glasses and N95 mask. Use the Young Nails dust collector and the Melody Susie E file. So I'm gonna start at a pretty high speed, about 9 RPMs, and we're just gonna focus on removing the design alone. We're really not removing much strength or structure of the nail. We wanna leave most of the product as is because we are mostly doing a fill. So because of that, a medium grit sanding band is perfect for this. I'm really just focusing on removing that design. These are Melody Susie sanding bands. This is, I believe, a medium grit, but I'm gonna have all the information in the description as well as in the little annotations in the video. But I'm basically just running my file against the surface of the nail and removing that design. We can also run that sanding band along the cuticle area. If there's any lifting, you can remove that at this time. And you also just want to make sure that the product in that area is flush in general for when we go back in and do our fill and add more product. But the sidewalls and everything else we're going to leave alone and leave as is. So we're just going to continue on with that and remove the design from all of the other nails. And all products are in the description in terms of like links and stuff as well, so you can check that out there. Here's how things are looking. I'm just gonna take some isopropyl alcohol and a manicure brush and just dust off my nails to get off any excess product. And then we're gonna go ahead and do some cuticle work. So whether I'm doing a new set or a fill, cuticle work is equally as important. So I always start off with a cuticle pusher and I gently push back the cuticle and try to be as thorough as possible. Try to get into all those corners as well. I had about 3 weeks of growth, so I took my time with this. Obviously these clips are sped up. So I definitely make sure to include this step even when I'm doing a fill. And then I also like to use a micro tapered cuticle bit from Erica's ATA as part of my prep work. She has really great cuticle bits for like prep work and even just like shaping in general, but I use this at about 5 RPMs and just further clean up that area with that. And then lastly, I use my 240 grit Pana sanding band. This is a very fine grit one. I just try to make sure I season it because for this step, I'm actually using this along the cuticle area in the natural nail. Of course, it's touching a little bit of the product that's left. But before, when I was using the medium grit one, that was more so to actually like flush out the product itself. But for the actual like part of the natural nail that's, you know, like grown out, I like to use the fine grit one. Next, I use Young Nails Swipe and a lint-free wipe just to dehydrate and cleanse, remove any oils and dust, make sure we have a nice dehydrated surface, which gives us better retention. Then I go in with Young Nails Protein Bond. This is a primer and I use it over the natural nail. You can bring it down a little bit if you'd like, just depends on you and how much of your product you want to use. Then we go in with a gel base coat. This is a very important step for polygel. And I use it over the natural nail that's grown out as well as the rest of the nail itself because it is going to create an anchor as well for that polygel to stick to. And you want to fully cure this in your lamp and do not wipe off the sticky layer. That's a common question I get, but you want to leave the sticky layer on. Then we're going to get our slip solution ready. We're using 70% isopropyl alcohol, and this is the polygel we're using. No surprise there, I'm using the same color again, Le Corail from Macart. It's a really like nice sheer pink color. I just like to work my brush into the slip solution, and you just need a little bit on your brush to help mold the product. You don't want to flood the nail with slip solution or anything like that. So once I've placed down my bead, I'm gonna start using the edges of my brush to tuck it into the cuticle area, make sure it's as flush as I can get it, and then we're gonna start using the body of the brush to drag the product down. As I drag it down, you can see it's getting thinner and thinner, and I'm kind of just feathering it down. I don't wanna concentrate too much product on the rest of the nail because that structure is really already there. It's really just the cuticle area that we need to fill in. So you can see it's not looking too bulky and it's looking pretty uniform, so this isn't too bad. And then we're gonna go ahead and do that to the rest of the nails. I tend to just bring down the product all the way down the nail, even if it's super thin, even when I do a fill. You know, you could try to just keep it at the cuticle area, whatever works for you, but I didn't mind bringing down a little bit of extra product and then just getting the rest of that off, any excess with my brush. And I'm always constantly tapping the sidewalls to make sure I remove as much excess product from those areas as I can, because it does make your nail look bulky and it'll reduce time for shaping if you remove that as you go during application. So we're gonna go ahead and continue to do that to the rest of the nails. But really when we're doing a fill, we're concentrating on basically filling in the majority of that product near the cuticle area where it's grown out and making sure we have enough product there for an apex. And then, like I said, I just like to feather the rest down and then remove the excess. So one bead was enough for me to just kind of like fill in that area. You can see I'm placing it right below the cuticle area. You don't want to put it like right on the cuticle area because then it can cause more flooding. You want to place it right below and then use the edges of your brush to tuck it in. And then, like I've mentioned in a lot of my videos, polygel is really about that patting motion. So it's like a combination of patting and dragging, but you don't want to drag until the product is like as smoothed out as you'd like, if that makes sense. You want to like pat it into place and flatten as much as you need and then drag it down. I feel like I'm rambling a lot in this video. I did a silent video for my last one, so it's kind of funny doing a talking video now, but I really just want to give you guys as much like detailed tips and advice as I can. That's like helped me. But anyways, once everything is cured, and that was pretty much all we needed to do for our application. So cure it, wipe off the sticky layer, and then we can go right into shaping. So I'm using a 5-in-1 pana bit. This is a fine grit one. I use it for the cuticle area at about 5 RPMs, 3 to 5 RPMs, and then I use it under the nail as well to clean up any excess product that's under there. You can also use this drill bit along the body and surface of the nail, but the main hype over this drill bit is that it's really great for the cuticle area because it's tapered. So you want to just use it at a low speed, use it at a low pressure. Don't dig into the nail because there's a very fine balance between cleaning up the cuticle area, you know, making everything nice and flush, and removing too much product. If you remove too much product, it's gonna kind of ruin the look and shape of your nail, and you don't want to go back and apply more. So just go bit by bit and just use it at a low speed because you can always go back and file more. That's what's worked best for me. Next, I like to use the round pana bit, and I use this at a higher speed, and I run this over the entire surface of the nail. You guys have, if you've been watching my videos, you know that my routine is pretty much more or less the same, but I know it's helpful to just see things in detail. I know that was really helpful for me when I was a beginner, so I basically use this along the entire surface of the nail as well as the cuticle area. It just really helps smooth things out. You just want to be a little bit careful because this is a coarser bit, and I do tend to use this at a higher speed, so just use it at a lower speed if you need to until you're comfortable. And like I mentioned, it's great for the cuticle area. I don't know if it's necessarily good for like sealing it, but it really helps debulk that area as needed. As you get more comfortable with application and shaping, you'll learn to like analyze your nails and see where you need to shape more or less. Because this is really where like you can tie the entire look together and just really get the look that you're going for and make sure everything is nice and even. The next step is hand filing. I use an 80/80 grit hand file. This is pretty coarse, so I like to season the edges just to make sure I don't cut myself or anything. And I always start with filing under the sidewall to remove any excess product. And then I file against the sidewall. I want to make sure that sidewall is, well, obviously here this is an almond shape, so it's not exactly a straight line, but you want to create some symmetry. So that's why I'm kind of pointing side to side. Because you don't want to overfile one side, but you do want to bring in the sides a little bit. So it helps to keep moving side to side and kind of just reevaluating, like, how are things looking? Like, where do I need to file more or less? Same thing with the cuticle bit. If you file away too much in any of the areas that I'm pointing at, it's just a real pain to try to like fix it without having to apply more product. And since we are doing a fill, your nails are going to be obviously longer, so if you wanted to shorten it, now would be the time. I personally didn't really want to, so I just kind of rounded out the corners, the free edge, just to make sure that it was still, you know, maintaining that almond shape. And the great thing about a fill is ideally it should take you less time than like a fresh set. So I didn't feel like I had to do as much filing because especially in that free edge area, we didn't really add much product at all. And, you know, the shape had, you know, held up pretty well from the last time I had done, you know, like a new set. So it was just about kind of like fine tuning, but I do like to still run my file over the surface of the nail. And then, like I said, just kind of round out that free edge as needed. And then we're just dusting everything off just so we can actually see what we're doing. It's important to keep dusting off. The ring finger and the pinky was the two fingers that were left. So I just kind of wanted to show you like the difference between hand filing and not hand filing. Like it makes a big difference. So this is where I'm just like tapering in the sides. You know, I like a skinnier almond look, so you can kind of use your file to create that. You just want to be careful not to put too much pressure and just kind of keep checking and seeing how things are looking. I've definitely overfiled my nails. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes I made as a beginner. And the 80/80 grit hand file is also great for just like debulking the cuticle area as needed as well. You can see I was using the hand file in that area. You just want to be a little bit mindful of not cutting yourself or hitting the skin. Oh, and for the free edge, I actually use a 100/180 grit hand file because it's a little bit less coarse, because I don't want to take off too much length. So you can definitely use a less coarse file for that step. And the final step is basically you can either buff your nail, or what I like to personally do is just use that fine grit sanding band from Pana and just run it over the surface of the nail at a high speed, about 10 to 12 RPMs. You could also use a buffer, but this is just gonna help really smooth everything out, get out any scratches or anything that may be left so that we have a nice surface for nail art. So we're gonna finish off with that and then we will move on to nail art. And I do have other polygel and nail art, like press-on nail art tutorials on my page that you can check out. My routines are more or less the same, but you'll see that, you know, I try to explain everything in detail so you can follow along with that and really see what I'm doing and what I'm kind of like thinking technique-wise as I do my nails. So you can check those out and hopefully those will help if you're a beginner to polygel or just press-on nails in general and nail art. Then we are gonna use a lint-free wipe and just remove that dust one more time with some isopropyl alcohol. We wanna make sure we have a dust-free surface. And as you all know, if you've seen my nail art videos, I like to use a matte top coat before I do any like kind of complex nail art. It just creates a really nice smooth surface. So I use the Nails by Dev matte top coat, apply it to all 5 nails, fully cure that, and then you can remove the sticky layer that's on top and it'll reveal like the matte finish. Here's how everything is looking matte, and we're gonna start off with this color called Late Night Tip from Nails by Deb. It's a really nice satin red color. I'm just gonna put some on my nail art palette, and this is what we're gonna start off with. Gonna do this kind of tarot inspired heart and then some like Renaissance inspired nail art, just kind of a freestyle-ish with like red and gold as the main theme. So we're gonna start off with drawing a heart. I'm using the 9mm brush from Nails by Deb. This is the Dreamliner one, so this is the newer one. My old one was completely falling apart, so I was really happy to get a new brush. So I'm just kind of drawing the outline of the heart, and then I'm gonna go ahead and fill it in. And you can see like this satin red color is so nice. My last video before this, I did a full set with this color, and it's like one of my current favorite colors. And then we're gonna add some gold details. This is from Vivid Nails / Nailed by Naya. It's a gold chrome gel paint, so it's a little bit thicker, really great for outlining like I'm doing here. So I'm just picking some up off of my nail art palette. I'm just kind of showing you how I pick up the gel polish. So I keep it pretty light on my brush and it goes a long way. So once we've outlined that, I'm gonna use a dotting tool and we're gonna do some different like frame designs with this, just with the dotting tool. So this is like a really great way to create like a fun outline, is you just basically outline with a gel paint or gel polish of your color, and then you can add dots in that same color. So you'll see it kind of all comes together at the end and it looks very interesting and very royal, I guess. Like I said, this was kind of like a red and gold freestyle, but I've been wanting to do like more frame nail art lately, so I really like how this turned out. And then we're gonna go ahead and add in that little sword that was in the reference image. So just drawing our basic shapes here, and then we're gonna do a little bit of a dot there and just kind of connect everything to create the handle. And then we'll go ahead and draw the bottom of the sword right here, just a kind of little triangle-ish shape. And it's basically just coming out of the end of the heart, and then we can fill that in. Now we're gonna outline everything with a black liner gel and create that little stabbing effect. I don't know how you would describe it. And then we're gonna use some black shading gel just to add a little bit of texture and dimension there, not too much. And once everything is cured, we're gonna top coat it with the Nails by Deb top coat. But basically I like to use gel paints when I have to do like more fine and intricate details like outlining. We're gonna use that same red color and do a little bit of like a lace design on this is gonna be on the pointer finger and the ring finger. So you basically just draw your outline like you're doing a French tip, and then you can draw like the little mini circles for the ruffles and then outline it with gold. I'm jumping around a lot in this video, but you'll see it all come together in the end. So now we're gonna do a larger frame on the thumb. So I'm taking that same gold gel paint and drawing a little bit of thicker lines and just outlining the entire thumb with that. And then it's super easy. You just take your dotting tool and you start creating like uniform, evenly spaced dots around the entire border, and you'll end up with a really nice frame. And then we can use the same dotting tool to create some hearts, super easy, 2 dots, and leave that uncured and just go ahead and connect them. Basically just make them meet in the middle and be symmetrical, and that's like the easiest way to draw a heart. The pointer and ring finger is actually super easy to finish off because we repeat everything 3 times basically. So do the double French outline, add the dots, do the ruffles, do the gold outline again above that, and then the dotting. So you'll see that's how it looks when it's like kind of all stacked together, and then you can top coat it. And the thumb is the same design as the pinky, so I apologize if the nail art felt a little bit rushed, but I wanted to dedicate more time to the actual fill. But you can see that it's basically just the same designs kind of repeated on each of the nails. That's the end of the video. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.